Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now, to the show at hand.
Hello, Yoni Schmidt here, hosting today's episode of the Same Day Podcast, where I connect with entrepreneurs and top business and real estate leaders. Past guests include Scott Reeves, Senior Vice President of Chickasaw Community Bank, Noah Bleicher, Director of Operations at Capital Homes, and many other esteemed guests. Today's episode is brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. At Keyrenter Property Management, we are a full-service property management company helping our clients buy, renovate, and operate real estate assets. We help our clients build wealth while taking the headache out of property management. Listen, Sarah, we've helped Ryan and Jason turn a non-performing 14-unit property into a 100-plus unit portfolio of renovated single-family and multifamily properties. That's why no matter what rental you have, single-family home, condos, townhouses, apartments, we have the management solutions for you. Today, we're excited to welcome Sarah Durbin, VP of Franchise Success at Keyrenter Property Management, to our podcast. Sarah is a real estate powerhouse with a remarkable journey in the industry. Since 2006, she's been a licensed real estate professional with her experience including owning and operating 5 property management firms across 4 states and managing over 1,200 homes. Known for her problem-solving skills and expertise in streamlining operations, Sarah has made a significant impact in helping businesses enhance their performance and profitability. And outside of her professional realm, Sarah is a passionate traveler, a dedicated supporter of the foster care system, and the inspiring force behind the Sammy Smiles movement. Join us as we delve into her fascinating story and gain valuable insight from her wealth of experience in property management and business consulting. Welcome, Sarah, to the show.
Thank you, Yoni, for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Wonderful. Well, I guess let's just get started. And if you can share a little bit about your journey into the world of real estate, what was it that drew you to it?
Yeah, so like everybody else kind of landed into it. So in my early 20s, I was actually running a door-to-door company and single mom at the time and had gotten completely burnt out. And so I decided to move back to my hometown, Vernal, Utah, 9,000 population, and was actually going to take a break for a little bit. And I lasted about 2 weeks doing that. I am just not a sit still kind of a person. And so I actually started consulting with a real estate brokerage and got into my first rental property there and purchased, a house and a rental property, and then saw the opportunity for property management. And that's what really got me started on the journey. So that little town just saw, a lot of opportunity for investors. I think investors sleep a lot on small towns, and there's still some really great deals. And the rents were high at the time. The area is, there's a lot of natural gas and those type of resources. So a lot of blue collar that was driving the rent prices. And so just started there, grew that operations to 350 doors. And
Wow.
then, yeah. So over a pretty quick period of time. So initially starting out first 3 months, I wore all the hats. I was doing everything, took it to about 70 doors. And actually one of my biggest learning experiences for myself, had another business owner was like, you need to hire, like, why haven't you hired already? And so finally hired, and then was able to double in another 3-4 months. And so hit about 150 doors. And then about a year and a half later, 2 years, we were 350 doors. So.
Wow, that's impressive. You must have had a big piece of the market share in a town of 9,000 people. Tell me, what kind of challenges did you face when you started your property management business in Utah?
Some of the biggest challenges. One, definitely the staffing, not doing that early enough. This is going to age me. 2006, some of the propertyware systems just were not there, and so what we were utilizing was not cloud based. That was a huge headache with running around. I didn't even use a website, I think, for the first couple of years. So all of my business was absolutely word of mouth. And so and then I had about 8 competitors about after that first year just pop up, but a couple years down the road that definitely dwindled off. But just trying to make investors aware of the area too, because it was just a great place to invest in at the time. So
Mhm. So yeah, exposure to the area,
Mhm.
showcasing to investors, why it's a good idea to invest in that area,
Oh,
um, how their investments can appreciate and improve. I bet you had a lot of, growing pains and challenges as you were launching and scaling that business. How do you generally approach problem solving in business? And can you give us an example of a significant problem that you solved either back then when you were launching that business, or maybe something more recent nowadays when you're handling, lots of communication from franchise owners at Keyrenter and, heading up all of the marketing initiatives, making sure that we're all set up for success?
yeah. And so, I mean, I've done a lot of coaching, not just in the property management space. So, e-commerce, attorney, office, dental supply company. And so when I'm approaching and going in and taking a look at the business, you just start to ask questions, right? So it's asking the right questions and sitting down with everybody to ask questions, right? What's working right now? What's not working right now? I also like to ask 3 questions at the end of every year. So I've been doing this quite a bit. But what do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? What do I need to continue and improve? And when
Mhm.
you sit down and remove yourself from the day to day and get quiet for a minute, and so that's usually what I help do. Get on the Zoom. It's taking you away from the phone calls. It's taking you away from the staff for a minute. You're shutting yourself in the office, and we're getting clear, right? They usually know what's not working. They usually have a pretty good idea of what staff members are not working. And so when I get in and start taking a look at that, I like disc profiles. And so in the property management world, I'm pretty clear on what disc profiles work best in the right seats. And so I'm a department style management, and I just think that somebody that does well at maintenance probably isn't the best at doing the sales in the business. And so taking a look at that, the different personalities, and so sometimes people are just in the wrong seat. Or there's the growing pains of if you're under 300 doors, it's harder to staff correctly. And so
Mhm.
really trying to get to those 300 doors so that you can actually staff each department correctly and have people in the correct seats. Because as you're growing under 300 doors, everybody's wearing multiple hats. And
Mhm.
so some of those hats they're better at and some they're not, but out of necessity of the business growing, sometimes you got to make things work. And so
Yeah.
just diving in there and figuring out, what's going on. Operations wise, sometimes everything is in someone's head. And so they need to hire, but they haven't been able to take everything out of their head and pass that along to staff because nothing's written down. There's not the processes put in place. It's in somebody's head. And so reactive, right? That just creates a lot of reactive in the business instead of being proactive. And so
Yeah.
just starting to dive into those things.
That's great. Yeah, I know that, that's definitely a challenge and something that I've been focusing on most recently with my department, heading up the sales department here at Keyrenter
Mhm.
PMC, where we're operating in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Northwest Arkansas, and Wichita, putting pen to paper, or I guess, keyboard to Google Doc, and really putting those standard operating procedures, those SOPs in place in writing, either in a video, in a Loom, and something so that we can share this across the board when we're hiring and training. We're using those resources rather than clogging up our time in our calendar and meet with meetings that are redundant, or the meetings that are just like the same thing over and over again. That's wonderful. And I know that you've helped startups and companies that have grown and expanded. And as a consultant, that's one of the things that you do. What would you say in today's world is one of the most common pitfalls you see in property management businesses, and how do you address it?
Most common pitfalls would would probably it's probably the operations and
Mhm.
not having that in place. And so starting, you say pen to paper, but I like whiteboarding it, right? Really getting it written down to where it's visual before you start utilizing other systems like Lead Simple or Monday or any of those systems that you can create the recurring tasks that your staff can follow. So getting it down on paper first, then getting it into the system, and then testing it real world. Because a
Yeah,
lot of the times, what's in our mind, and then when you start actually using it, or the person that's in that position starts actually using it, it's like, okay, we need to tweak a couple of things because real life, this is not how this goes.
yeah, I love that. Jordan Wela actually has a really great podcast about this, where he talks to a property management business owner. I can't remember who it was, but that was one of the things that she really harped on. And she brought her whole team, and they did this massive whiteboarding session and exercise where they put out the processes on the whiteboard, and they build the process external to any system. And then they decide on, okay, what system would work best with this process that we're building. And then they ended up landing on Lead Simple, which, as you know and I know, is such a wonderful piece of SaaS and software as a service, with lots of great features, and something that I think almost every property management company should consider utilizing, because of how easy it makes things for you. In I guess, at least in the sales world, we haven't tapped quite much into the operation side of the business, but you've astutely recognized how painful it can be with operations, and not having those playbooks really tightly knit and put together.
And
So
and and start with one. Like people get really overwhelmed, right? Start with one area.
yeah.
The first thing that you're doing with the client, right? You're onboarding the client. Like start
Hmm.
there and then go through the whole process. And
Right.
just know you're going to have to tweak things, right? You've got to sit down and make time for this. So I used to say, quarterly, if you can, step out of the business. I would
Hmm.
sometimes do staycations, right? So check myself into a hotel down the street to get out of the everyday life, so that, okay, I'm going to a hotel this weekend. I need to bring with me what I need to sit down to give this some thought of what's not working in the business and what do I need to be sitting and evaluating. Are we still headed in the right direction? But removing yourself out of that day to day and actually putting it on your calendar,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. It's
Definitely.
easier said than done. But if you can protect that and make that a habit, that will help drive things forward instead of just staying stuck in the day to day.
Yeah. Balancing life and family and friends and, work. It can be challenging, especially in the world of property management, where things just never sleep, and, they're constant. When you have 350 homes that you're managing, that's, 350, maybe 600 problems just waiting to happen. You just never know.
That's the
Um,
fun of it too, right? No day's ever the same. Something's gonna come up.
that is definitely what the fun of it is, that every day is unique and you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And, every day brings its own set of challenges. So it's an exciting industry to be in, and an important one too, because we're in the business of putting roofs over people's heads.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that, we operate as going concerns and we operate sustainable businesses. Tell me, I guess, could you talk a little bit about a memorable success story in your consulting career? I mean, it could even be this role that you're in right now, because I know you came into Keyrenter as a consultant, and then our CEO Nate too was basically chomping at the bits, wanting to bring you on full time once he saw what you were capable of, and the improvements that you've made to the business overall, and your consulting advice and expertise really came in handy for many of the franchise business owners. Any memorable success stories, either from Keyrenter or from your past clients that you worked with, current clients that you're working with?
Yeah, so I mean, I love coaching, so that's what brought me into this. I love problem solving. I love figuring out a solution. I have a lot of bruises from running 5 property management companies. I ran a women's mastermind for a long time, so dove into a lot of their companies as well. And so if I can um, help eliminate some of the problems, right? And sometimes the problems seem really scary, and if we can really just chunk it down to the basics, that helps move through a lot of things. Um, you know, Consulting prior to Keyrenter, one of the companies I was working with, we started at 85 doors and we took them to 500 doors in about a 14-month period. And
Wow.
so that was a lot of fun. They had phenomenal growth. It was great to see. They embraced everything of, I say a lot, your network is your net worth. And so on the BDM side, really embracing that, growing the business, turning on all marketing aspects, social media. I'm big on social media and all those different avenues. But helping them grow, working with their rock star office manager, really getting the systems in place, and sometimes growth happens fast. So sometimes things are working really well, like 300 doors. Then you all of a sudden are sitting at 500 doors. You're like, what happened? Why isn't this? You got to pause sometimes and readjust, and put the wheels back on and make sure the entire team knows the direction of the ship and that we're all rowing in the right direction. And so it's fun. It's fun getting to dive in with different business owners, and so I've enjoyed it.
Love that. That's massive success, going from 85 to 500. You mentioned a few things earlier. You mentioned, the right person in the right seat. And you talked a little bit about BDMs, business development managers. My responsibility is to lead the sales and marketing department for our 4 franchises at the moment. And this has been definitely one of the most challenging roles that I've been elevated into, and one of the most rewarding ones as well. It's extremely humbling, I would say, to go from the person who's hunting for the business, right, driving the growth of the business in whatever market I'm in, to now arming the business development managers with the tools, knowledge, resources, and let's call them weapons, so to speak, to educate our prospective clients who are coming into the top of the funnel. I'd say, for me specifically, that was a tough transition. It's always a learning curve, and I'm enjoying the process. A BDM, from my perspective, is someone who can add value into a client's life, right? And one of the most important things is to add value with the expectation of nothing in return, whether it's, conducting a quick rental analysis, helping them determine whether a property is a good investment in general. I just had a gal who's a client of ours text me 3 properties today, and I said, I wouldn't necessarily go ahead and buy these. The reason is because these are $250,000 homes. Even if you were to pay cash, you're probably looking at about a 5% return on your investment. Today is January 17th, 2024. You can lock up your money in a 10-month CD for 5.5%, right? And so kind of shooting myself in the foot saying, don't buy this, I'm not going to make a commission. Go lock up your money in a 10-month CD, but let's reconvene when the market is at a place where it makes sense, because here you have moderate risk with moderate appreciation. And on the flip side, if you put in a certificate of deposit at a bank or a high yield interest bearing account, right, you have zero risk. She immediately said, "Oh my God, thank you so much for your honesty." Right. And the reason I want to make sure that this is a good investment for her is because it's a long-term play. We want to build long-term relationships with our clients. Yes. And if we don't, and if they don't have a good taste in their mouth once they have gone through the process of the acquisition, then they won't enjoy the investment. It won't make sense for them long-term. And they'll be disgruntled, ultimately maybe firing us. And we won't get to, sell them more real estate, help them grow, build that generational wealth.
Yep.
All this to ask you, if you were in front of a BDM who's starting out in the world of property management, what is the number one piece of advice that you would give them, as far as the challenges that they can expect and what will define their success?
So I'm big on becoming the mayor of your community. And so the BDMs really are that for the company. They're the face of the company a lot of times, and in their local market, they're the local experts. And what I mean by becoming the mayor of the community is if they're building their network, they're connecting everyone. And so they're building that know, like, and trust with the client. They're connecting them. Like you said, put your money here. Maybe they didn't connect with you guys until after they purchased a property. And maybe they didn't realize, C class and what that really meant for their investment. And so maybe you are connecting of this investment long term, we're taking a look at these numbers, let's 1031 it. And so just having the knowledge, keep learning, never stop learning. Listen to all the podcasts, listen to Audible. You're going to be in the car a lot. Utilize that time. I love to listen to Audible like 1.5 or 1.25 speed, right? Listen to my podcasts and books anytime I'm traveling around. So be a sponge, learn, get out there and network, attend other people's events, anything that you can get education from, keep learning so that you can keep providing that value to your clients and get that information out there. Like, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get behind the camera, record a quick little educational video. We're stepping into a lot of markets that are creating what we call Alan the Accidental Landlord, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a real estate agent right now and you've got a client that's really frustrated, they're frustrated with you. You've done everything you possibly can to get this house to move, but interest rates, whatever is happening in the industry right now, renting it may be the solution, right? And so the BDM can come in there and help explain that. Maybe they turn into a long-term keeping that as a rental. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's a year or two, and we've got that guarantee that when that client's ready, we're going to turn that client back over to the real estate agent. But having all those connections to be able to be a solution for people when we need to be that solution.
Yeah. So mayor of your town, absorbing everything, learning, going through the learning,
getting out there,
networking, getting out there. That's all, wonderful things. And I 100% agree. I mean, people do business with people that they know, like, and trust, like you said. And, in certain cases, it may not make sense to sell, especially if the market isn't ripe for that, and renting might be the better option. And it really does come down to the individual's personal financial situation, right? If they're a high earner and they have a property that they could either sell or rent, I would advise them to rent because of the benefits that come along with renting your properties and investing in real estate. Not to mention that it's a great hedge against inflation. So in your experience, what approach, what's your approach, I guess, to finding and implementing cost saving strategies for businesses? Because, businesses who are scaling spend a lot of money on marketing, right? And we know that marketing isn't cheap, and we know that everyone's competing for that, top of page one on Google, and showing up on the map, and those initiatives can oftentimes cost a lot of money. What would you advise a company that you're consulting with? What strategies can they implement to save some money and not stifle their growth?
Yeah, so that's they could take that quite a few direction. When I first go in and start working with the company, you need to sit down and look at the P&L and understand the numbers of what's going on. Um, I can't tell you how many times I found fraud. I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, that's not my background, but just going through and just looking for anything that doesn't look right. Right? I had a
Mhm.
bookkeeper that had stolen $30,000 over a 5-year period from a company, and they just hadn't inspected enough, and so nobody caught that as a line
Wow.
item. Same with staff putting personal travel expenses under. You need to be reviewing your numbers and have that basic understanding. And I think a lot of small business owners just don't. They're relying on other people and not inspecting what they expect. And
Mhm.
so making sure that they're getting in there. You can make a lot of reach with marketing of just being willing to to do some of the marketing, right? Record the videos, put out the information. You don't always have to hire a third party company to do it. You can do a lot of this yourself. There are so many videos of, spend a few hours. I think as business owners, we should have basic understanding of SEO and SEM, period. Like if you're hiring somebody to do your SEO, have a basic understanding of what that means. And, your pay per click at the top on Google, the local pack, and then the organic search. What do all three of those mean, and what do I need to be doing with from an SEO standpoint to be getting that ranking and to keep that ranking, right? That's
Mhm.
evergreen. You've got to work on that forever. And then marketing's a long game too, right? You gotta continually have that on. You've got to spend the money to grow, and every market's different. So understanding if you are in a low, medium, or high competition market is absolutely going to affect your marketing spend
Mhm.
and the traction that you're going to make there. So
Mhm. Love that. Thank you. Shifting gears just a little bit, you definitely have your finger on the pulse of, the market, technology. Your husband um, is a software engineer who has, stepped in and has been helping us, and has been doing some stuff for Keyrenter as well. Brian Durbin, who I'm so glad to have him on the team, because he's pushed for some great stuff on the website, and that is extremely exciting for me. But what are some emerging trends in property management and property management technology that are exciting you?
well, I mean, Chat GPT, the buzz, right?
Hmm.
But utilizing that, understanding how you can use it to leverage in the business to make things easier for yourself and your staff. Understanding prompts, understanding how you can feed it data
Hmm.
and get results and utilize that data. Utilize ChatGPT to understand your data more. And so I
Hmm.
just think it's going to become more and more in our involved in our businesses, and then just streamlining, utilizing things like lead simple, connecting connecting so that there's automation there, so that you can staff less in your companies, right? make it easier on your staff, and so they're not so, stressed out, because there's actually some automation and reminders in the task management. It is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Love ChatGPT. One of my favorite things to do right now is create these assistants within ChatGPT. And I do pay the $20 a month paid version for all their GPT tools. And one of my favorite things is I created this assistant that helps me with comparative market analyses. And I essentially created this assistant so that anytime I upload a PDF that's named CMA 123 Main Street, right?
Mhm.
It immediately knows what to do, and it's analyzing the data within the CMA. It breaks it down for me, and then it also provides me with an email template that I can take and, of course, review, edit, change it for context with the client that I'm communicating with, and give them a suggested list price, whether it's for rent or for sale. And that has been one of my favorite things to do, just utilizing ChatGPT. Any other technology?
One thing with your BDMs, with the paid version, have you utilized it for role playing? So ChatGPT will be an investor and role play with your BDMs. And so I found that interesting.
Now that in this, I will definitely be doing that in one of our next Monday morning sales meetings, because that is absolutely ingenious. Really, that I didn't think about that. Thank you. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna let you know how that went.
All right.
I guess any other technology solutions that are out there that are exciting to you? I know that we at Keyrenter were looking into a partnership with blankethomes.com. Lior Abramovich, him and Ben Nemechek are going to be on the Keyrenter cruise, and
we're starting a pilot program with them right now. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so we're using it already. We've rolled it out, and I love the solution. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts and your perspective on why does this matter, and how does this affect our clients, and what are the benefits in general from having an investor dashboard that really showcases your returns on a property by property basis and on a portfolio basis, and then also heightens the level of transparency that Keyrenter offers its clients by providing a daily, checking account experience. Maybe I just stole everything that you were about to say.
I think that's missing, from not just property management companies, but just investors in general. Typically 10 doors or less just don't have that information. And so being able to have that information, data to make educated decisions is, that's game changing for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. I love it because I can see, what my actual returns are for my portfolio of rentals, and I don't have to be buried in a spreadsheet. And that's really what was a game changer to me. I guess let's talk a little bit about, your take on the importance of company culture in business success. You've launched successful businesses. You've consulted, businesses that needed help, and you've transitioned them into successful businesses. How does company culture, what's the importance there, and how does it impact the business in general?
Company culture is everything. So if you're treating your employees right, they're going to naturally, it's going to cascade down to your clients. And so, I mean, we've all got one life. We've got to enjoy getting up and working with the people that we're working with, and having a good time doing it. Property management is hard. There's a lot of situations that come up in our everyday, and so having the support of all team, working together, willing to jump in, help where they need to. But company culture, it's everything. And if you've got somebody that is not the right culture fit, that's poison in your company, regardless if they are the best BDM out there and they have a way higher close rate, they're growing the company. if it is poison and not the right culture fit, you have got to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with with every seat of the company. Don't hang on just because somebody might be exceptionally well, because it will just drive poison through the entire company, and you'll lose other key employees, because of it.
Yeah, that seeps through to other departments and other employees.
100%.
It's noticeable.
Yep.
Very interesting. Yeah, culture is a big piece. I agree. And what's the saying? I can't remember who said this. Maybe it was like Sir Richard Branson, but maybe it wasn't. But you train your employees well enough to where they can leave you, but treat them in a way that they wouldn't want to, right?
Yep.
And that's a great way of life in general. So I agree that culture is a huge piece of the puzzle here. So, speaking of culture, speaking of staffing, speaking of human resources in general, how do you assess and advise on staffing needs for growing businesses, in particular property management companies?
Yeah, so I go in and take a look at a number of things. So all of the basic KPIs. I know some people really really create some dashboards and things around KPIs and can really get in the weeds there. But I tend to go back to the basics, like what's going on. What's the number of doors? How many work orders are we handling on a monthly basis with this portfolio? Is it too high? Why? Are we right about the right amount? If we've got the correct people in the correct seats, where are we growing? What's the goal for growth, and what do we need to staff to get there? Are we understaffed and everybody is just barely above water, hanging on? And so just starting to take a look at all of that basic KPIs, what's coming in. I'll look at phone system and the phone records, and that gives me an immediate indication: are we in a reactive state or are we in a proactive state? So reactive, there's way more calls flowing in than flowing out. And so starting to just take a look at that. I go through interviewing the staff, disc profiling, like I said, and just assessing from there, and then knowing goals. Like, are we sitting at 200 doors and the goal is 500 doors over a 2-year period? What do we need to do to get there, and who needs to be put in place? Who's currently in place, being self-aware with yourself and all of the employees who's currently in place, and then who do we need to add to fill in the gaps?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned, feeling underwater if the team is a little bit, overwhelmed. Can you share a little bit of insights on effective task management strategies? What are the best task management strategies that you've noticed, especially again in the world of property management, where so many tasks always, right? Between
Yep.
maintenance and leasing and marketing and advertising and showing and owners and owner statements and accounting, it's just like never endless, right? It's
Yes. So I'm huge on time blocking. That is the only way that I was able to run 5 companies. So very big on time blocking my day. And I never ended my day before reviewing my entire, task list and knowing what tomorrow looks like for me. I do not start my morning ever not knowing what I'm going to do for the day. I know exactly what is on my plate for the day. And so when I sit down to start working, you're just going, instead of spending 30 minutes trying to figure out, okay, what's my priority? What do I need to get done today? Letting all the other emergencies that come up with property management take over your day. And then with that time blocking, so let's just use like maintenance as an example. A lot of the times our staff just are reacting as everything comes in. And it is not likely that a maintenance item, usually, unless it's an emergency, is going to get dispatched that day, right? We're going to create the work order, we're going to get it over to the right vendor. And so with time chunking, so they may want to take the morning, get everything that's come in over the night, and people that are calling first thing in the morning, but not dispatch that till 10 o'clock. Then also hold the rest of it and do it again at 3 o'clock. And so if you're just constantly letting interruptions all day long of sitting to do that, it's going to add up just bogging them down for the whole day rather than just, okay, right now it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to dispatch everything and then I'll do that again at 3 o'clock. Here's the times that I need to do follow-ups on estimates that are out. And so really taking that day and being intentional about what you're working on.
Yeah. Time blocking is the answer then. I love it. I time block. It's extremely helpful. And it also gets me in the rhythm because I know every week on Tuesday, I'm auditing pipelines in Lead Simple, right? Every, I guess like Tuesday at a certain time, I'm
Yep.
handling my rocks and my projects, right? So that's a really great piece of advice there.
And protecting it too, like a BDM,
yeah.
for example, if they need to do their outbound calls, touch points of however many, the 20, but making those 20 calls out, if they've got it blocked on their calendar from 8:30 to 10 o'clock or whatever that looks like, protecting that, right?
Yeah.
Not letting other emergencies come in, you can resolve those at the appropriate time, but
Yeah.
protect your calendar.
Love that. Super important to protect your calendar. Sarah, tell me a little bit. I know that we're coming here up at the end of the hour. Just a few more questions. What was it that inspired you to shift from owning property management firms to consulting?
Yeah, so we had a family tragedy. I lost my 17-year-old son November 9th of 2017, and so I actually stepped out of the. Thank you. I actually stepped out of the business just for a couple of years to go through that, and I actually had never considered really consulting full time, but um, it's all been word of mouth, and so I just started with one company and just loved it. Just fell in love with being able to go in and help people out. And so just word of mouth kept getting me busier and busier with that. And so that's what stepped out of owning the businesses and going into consulting.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned helping people out, which is really the root and kind of the foundation to what I consider, most people's success in general. Helping out and volunteering, I know is something that you care deeply about. Can you tell me a little bit about what drives your passion for volunteering specifically in the foster care system? I know that you mentioned at a dinner that we were together in Austin, Texas, that it was related to the tragedy that your family experienced.
Yeah, so we created Sammy Smiles, but even prior to that, my two youngest are adopted, not out of the foster care system, but we met a lot of other families that had adopted out of foster care system. And a lot of people don't realize, so some of the numbers, I've got them pulled up here, more than 23,000 kids age out of the foster care system every single year. 1 in 4 will not graduate from high school or get a GED. 7 in 10 girls who age out will become pregnant before the age of 21.
Wow.
1 in 4 will become homeless within 4 years of aging out of the system. And so just learning some of those statistics and then just knowing children that are removed from homes, they're removed a lot of times with their handed garbage bags, like put some of your clothes and things into a garbage bag. And so we've just done some things there where we've created bags, right, with just some basic needs, just locally where we've been, just try to make little differences there in the foster care system. So, an adoption is huge in our heart, and so my son's name was Sam. We always called him Sammy, so we created Sammy Smiles, and so we try to do a project every year for his birthday in honor of him. So.
And that's in September.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so every September you dedicate to Sammy Smiles and to the project that you are pursuing that year. Can you tell us maybe about one of the most recent projects, something that you enjoyed and impacted you?
Yeah. Yeah, probably not the most recent, but one of the years starting out, and it really just pulled our whole family. We just did random acts of kindness, and so we actually did that for the entire month of September and asked all of our family, friends, colleagues, everybody in our network to participate. And so it was just random acts of kindness. And so when you're just looking out for, just somebody you're out in your day-to-day life that looks like they could need a smile, right? So my kids have taken flowers back into like a cashier that maybe was having a hard day. Somebody was sick for their birthday, dropped off a present. We'd leave money to pay for a book in a bookstore, money to pay for diapers at a grocery store. And so it was just all these different random acts of kindness that just, making somebody smile. It being of service brightens your day.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it compounds.
Yes.
I love that. I keep little $10 Quick Trip gift cards in my glove compartment that, I hand out to, people I feel like need it, sometimes even to some of our vendors, just to kind of boost their day a little bit. And I see that it really impacts people in a positive way. Tell us, how can people get involved in Sandy Smiles? Is that something that's open to the community? If I wanted to partake in, in the next project in September, is that something that you advertise?
Yeah, not really so much advertise. Can follow me on Facebook. So it's Sarah Durbin, SarahDurbin, D as in dog, B as in boy, N as in Nancy. Let me spit that out. But I have that as a public post every year when we're starting that in September.
Love it. I can't wait to get involved this September and be a part of the movement and hopefully make some impact into people's lives. On a different note, I guess, and, as a final question, tell us a little bit about, I know your day looks like a lot of time blocking, but what does a day in the life of Sarah look like, balancing, professional and personal commitment?
Yeah. So I think balance is a lie. And so I will just say that right off. I think especially working with a lot of women, we try to business owners, women in general, both, we try to hang on to this. We should have some sort of balance. And I think balance is a lie. Sometimes you've got to dig in and work a little harder on your business because of growth. There's some goals there, but then also flip the coin. You take a couple weeks off and you travel with kids or things like that. And so you're not working on the business then. And so maybe some things need to be set aside while you're doing that. But everything gets put on a schedule for us. So even my kids know that it's got to go on the calendar. So soccer games, soccer practice, we're huge into soccer, music classes, all that kind of stuff. It's gotta go on the schedule so that everybody knows what we're doing, and it's not always perfect, right?
Right.
We drive through fast food. Like sometimes that's just what life needs because that's just made it easier for the night to get through practice and home and everybody, in bed on time. So that's my take on balance. give and take. Work as a team, as a family, for sure.
Love that. That's great. Sarah, thank you so much for joining this podcast recording. Really, truly inspiring stuff, and love learning from your experience and your years of dedication and commitment to building successful businesses, helping people, being that person who is the go-to person for any and all owners, accidental landlords, investors, and then all of the work that you do for the community in the foster care system, Sammy Smiles, and for us here at Keyrenter. Truly, truly, truly thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on it. Always good to catch up with you.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Yoni.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.